it's me, Ingrid INFP. And I was just at the Habilitering, which is the neurorehab, or whatever we call this, because I got diagnosed with autism 3 months ago, and this was their planning meeting to see what kind of help I could get for my autism, what they have to, like what possibilities I have, how do we go further from now. And it was really good. It went over my expectations. I didn't expect much, I must say, considering that I've had a lot of misunderstandings with the healthcare system before now. I met with a physiotherapist, actually. But all the physiotherapists at this neuro rehab, like everybody there, is able to do habilitation plans. So the fact that she was a physiotherapist did not really matter in this case, because she did the same thing as what a psychologist or just another kind of therapist would do. It was 1.5 hours, and I had to rush there. Actually, I hadn't eaten lunch because in the morning I was on the road with a nurse, and we were like doing home visits for elderly people who needed our help. So we didn't come back. We thought that we would come back at 12, but it ended up being more like 1:45, and then I had to rush and write up all of these this documentation about what happened, and then I had to run, and I had to leave the telephone that I usually have at work with a colleague, and everything had to be ready before the weekend. And then it was snowing, and it snowed a lot, and it was really windy and awful, and I had to walk a half hour in the snow up hills to get to this appointment. I came there on time, but I was really sweaty, and it didn't feel great because I hadn't eaten lunch as well. So I wasn't in the best of moods, but I think that she was very professional, was not judgmental in any way, which is a real breath of fresh air. Oh, sorry, they're taking away the snow right now. That's what you're hearing in the background. I'll just pause the video. Okay, when they take care of the snow here, like in Sweden, they're not joking around. They had like 3 big trucks just to, they need to do the salting, they put gravel on the ground, and then they do, and everything is, my town does this for us. So I'm really grateful, because apparently in some other countries you have to like do this yourself, scooping away the snow. Anyway, I was there, and the person who I met was really nice. She herself actually has a disability that is invisible, kind of, because she told me that she has become partly blind. So that's why she was writing everything on paper rather than on a computer. And also she I realized I didn't need to make eye contact with this person because she was not really making eye contact with me either. So that was kind of a positive in all this. It was quite taxing on my energy because I had to talk about my whole life all over again, all of my problems. So, thinking about all the problems that you have is quite a lot. And I got, first she asked me like what kind of problems do I want to take up before we go further. But I kind of got stuck, like I just needed kind of a guidance on how to go through with this discussion. it was interesting because she was asking me like, what about my physical health? And all I could come up with was like the dentist. Then I told her like it's difficult with sleep schedule and eating and stuff like that. But then I came to, like, I said, well, I don't go to the gym or do any kind of physical activity. This is a physiotherapist, okay? But she's a physiotherapist who's used to like people who aren't able to get out of their bed, basically. Both because of physical and mental conditions. So like I am the person who is like the most mobile out of all these people apparently, which is quite unusual for me because some days like I literally cannot get myself to do more than to go out and take the trash, or like, you know, maybe I'll go to the grocery store and get myself some food. The grocery store is about less than 10 minutes away by foot. So that is like, you know, most of my walking is that. But then I told her, you know, I walk to work, and at the moment my work is like a 40-minute walk. 30 minutes if I go regular. Right now, because of the snow, it's 40 minutes, but maybe I can take, maybe if I was very quick, I could make it in a half hour. So I am getting my steps in, and so it's okay, you know. I'm not a very healthy person, but I'm doing what I can. However, what got me really like in tears, sad, was my talking about driving license and talking about that I don't have the driving license, and then she was like, yeah, well, you can bike. And I said, yeah, I can't bike. And that made me burst into tears because it feels really embarrassing that I learned to drive, like to bike when I was 6 or something, which was late actually compared to my peers. But I learned it, and then like I was never really good at it. I'm really bad with my balance, which she said can be something that's linked to autism, is like, you know, my balance being shitty. And that's why it's been so hard for me too. It's not just the fact of learning something new or being bad at it, or, you know, having to get myself to do something. It's not just that, it's also that even if I get sitting on a bike and I'm practicing going on a bike, I still don't feel like at ease on the bike because my balance is bad, you know, and I'm very clumsy in lots of respects. So she told me, you know, you could just get a kick bike, like a electric scooter. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not sure I could balance on that either. And she said, well, maybe you need to start with the kick bike in order to get the balance, in order to maybe you can bike in the future, but it's not that important because the most important thing here is having transportation. It's not the skill of the biking itself. You know, and she didn't judge me for that, and I was really happy about that. She said that she can't drive anymore because of her blindness, and she said that she understands that this is important for me because, you know, for my autonomy, and so that I can also do my job, I will need a car. But she said, you know, that it's fine, you know. Then we got to a point where we were talking about communication, and she said, I don't see any communication difficulties. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I can talk and that's fine. However, I said that I get into misunderstandings all the time. And then I recounted what happened with my ex-best friend and what happened with my best friend now. And yeah, the ones that I call my ex-INFJ friend and the one that I call my ISFJ friend. Basically, I was not taught all the things that I should have been taught by my parents, possibly because they themselves have mental issues, mental illness or neurodivergence or both. I lived in a hoarder house, and so none of the house chores could be done in like a normal manner. Like making food, there was no counter space. And my parents did not really cook that much food for me growing up. Most of it was like ready-made frozen foods. Also, a lot of cleaning was not possible because there was no floor space to clean, and I was telling her about I can't organize the thing like my clothes. I go to the laundry, I do the laundry, and then I hang it up, but I don't fold my clothes and I don't put them on hangers because when I was growing up, there were no hangers. There were no, there was no drawer to put the clothes in. Everything was just in piles. So since I've never seen that modeled growing up, I'm just like, okay, well, I've always done it. Like I've always not done the organizing the way that you're, like most people do, So I've never been taught these things. So obviously, so not being taught these things, she said, was like the main difficulty. And then the autism compounds this in that it gives me less function to learn these things as an adult, and it makes my thinking also more rigid. So I kind of hinder myself from doing these things, and yeah, that's why I can't get out of it on my own. Like I've tried, and in certain aspects I've managed to make a life for myself, but it's not at all ideal, and I have many, many difficulties and problems because I just don't have the skills, because nobody taught me the skills. Now, this might sound like an obvious thing, but the thing is, we all only live our own lives, so we don't really know how other people live their lives except from the outside. So I've seen my friends, like how their houses were clean and such, but I never lived in a clean house, so I never really know how that works. So, it's not like I was abused by my parents, and it wasn't like they were bad parents, like they weren't intentionally doing something bad. However, it wasn't conducive to me learning the skills that are needed for adult life. And it's not because they were neglecting me per se. It was more like that they themselves did not have the tools to be, showing me how to do things, So, I don't know. It makes me really sad thinking about that, like growing up like this. Because I don't know how it could have been different, because this is just my life. There's no like alternative life, this is it. And yeah, it made me kind of sad, because then I was explaining what happened is that when I tried to learn skills as an adult, I learned them through the internet and such, and I have a hard time starting doing these things, and so I don't do them, and then like this is the cycle. So when I finally decide, okay, I'm going to try this out, I need help from other people, but I don't have that many contacts, that many friends that can show me how to do these things without judgment. And so when I first was doing the CBT therapy for my social anxiety, I wanted to cut an onion, and so I cut an onion in front of my ex-INFJ friend. And I tried to keep my calm and to do this, but obviously I felt really insecure about not being able to do this thing, and so and then what happened is that I got really stressed out, so I got into a panic attack, and then my friend like must have suddenly realized like how disabled I was, not knowing that this was autism obviously, but this person was like, how can you get so stressed out about cutting an onion and not being able to even do it well, you know? And so like I didn't have the answer to that, and it was kind of like he was judging me, and I panicked, and then that made me less want to actually learn to do new things, because I felt like I was such a terrible person, such a useless person, that like I couldn't keep going, you know? And I actually, you know, several of these kinds of things happened, and then now this person has blocked me on all social media and we're not friends anymore. And I still got extremely sad at this meeting, because I was recounting all this and it was really painful for me. And, you know, I got blamed by my friend for not being able to discuss these things with him. But really, like, how can I discuss things with somebody who gets angry at me for something I can't help, you know? And I feel like that with a lot of misunderstandings, that I can't help not understanding, you know? And, you know, maybe, you know, intellectually I'm not that, you know, smart as people would think. When people first meet me, they think, oh, then like I'm a pretty smart person, because, you know, I'm a doctor and I seem to function pretty well outside, and you know, I like to talk about theoretical things, or like, you know, abstract things. I like to talk about all sorts of different things that are a little bit that I feel are meaningful. But, you know, deep down, like, I am not very smart, and I'm not smart in the communication domain, you know, and so people think like, you know, and so there'll be a misunderstanding, and it's like I'm always blamed for being the person who misunderstood, and I can't really fault that, but it does make me really sad, and I feel like a useless person because I can't figure this out, and there's no way for somebody else to help me figure it out either. And we get into this cycle of misunderstandings more and more. And yeah, ironically, this happened on the same evening after this meeting. It's, I don't know. It's something that happens to me quite often. So at this point, I'm not like that affected by it, but it does affect me when these are things that are important. So yeah, we went through this discussion with the rehab, this physiotherapist. I had to give some credit for my best friend, ISFJ. And then I called my ISFJ friend after this meeting, and he was really touched. I talked about him to this physiotherapist, but I said, like, he watched me cut up vegetables and was just like a guiding presence, and he was just like behind me saying, like, be careful for your fingers, or like maybe you could cut in this way rather than that way, not putting himself too much in while not, so leaving me to figure it out on my own, but also not leaving me completely on my own. Because sometimes when people want to leave you to figure things out, then they're like, get mad when you do it wrong. But he doesn't like get mad if I do it wrong. Like once he asked me to bring him a salad, and I brought him a cabbage because I didn't really see the difference between a salad and a cabbage. I didn't realize that a cabbage was, more compact, I guess, than a salad. So I thought that cabbage and salad was the same thing. And I mean, it is a dumb thing and it's pretty embarrassing. But he didn't judge me for that. He was like, oh, okay, well then we'll eat cabbage instead. It wasn't such a big deal. And I'm so grateful that I have a friend that actually understands that and is, okay with me being a little bit dumb sometimes or whatever, because it makes me feel like I can trust him, because so many times I'm just like met with a lot of judgment and like I'm a useless person kind of feeling, and that makes me fall into a depression, and it just makes me want to like not be on this planet. Life is hard. But it doesn't, some people get so frustrated at me, and it's like I can't do anything about it. Yes, I will frustrate people, but I can't change the core being of who I am, and that being is naive at times, and is going to not understand things, and that's okay, but it's like I've always been so scared of asking questions when I was growing up, but maybe like, because people weren't okay with people asking questions. So I realize now that I need to ask more questions, and not worry about seeming dumb, because it was really difficult for me to go through this whole ordeal of talking about all of these kinds of problems with the neurorehab person. And so she got, at the end of all this, she said, well, these were the two moments where I actually got really sad, and so she said that this must mean that it's kind of important. So she put that as like misunderstandings being a problem, and transportation being a problem, and then lack of skills. So what we came up to is that there is an introductory course in understanding autism, which is like a group therapy kind of thing, with several other people that have been newly diagnosed. So that will be at the end of the spring period, so maybe like in April or something like that. So she put me on the waiting list for that. She also said that there are some videos online, and I can also share these videos with my best friend, because he's considered, the closest person to me at the moment. So we put his number in there too, so that he can get a link. These videos will only be accessible for me for a month. But yeah, so there's that. Then there's also this thing in Sweden called boendestöd, which is, I don't know what it is. Is that kind of like a social worker, I guess? There are many different kinds of jobs out there that we don't really understand sometimes. There are many different kinds of social worker. Like, you can be a case manager or that kind of thing. This person is called boendestödjare, which means like a support, home support, I guess. Yeah, it would literally translate to home support. And this is a person who would come to a certain place. It can be my house, or it can be at like a official, like public place, and help me do tasks. Like maybe they could come once a week or something and help me do a certain task. They will not do the task for me, but they will kind of be around while I do the task. Maybe watch me doing the task, which really I don't like, but maybe they'll like nudge me in the right direction while I'm doing the task. This is something that is from the commune, which is my county, I guess, city. So, and I get this service for free from the state, basically, from my taxes. I pay a lot of taxes as a doctor, so maybe I shouldn't feel as guilty about this, but it's kind of like just a mentor kind of person, like that's there. Kind of like a replacement for your parents, I guess, kind of thing, where like your parents show you how to cut a vegetable and then you do it. And they're not like actually doing the cutting for you. They're just there to make sure that you do it and that you do it in a correct manner, I guess. These people can help with different things, but I think for me would be like helping with cleaning, like showing me a little bit how to do these things. Maybe they can show me how to fold clothes, because I've never really learned that skill. I've learned through YouTube, and these things, like, okay, it seems simple, but I can't consistently do that. So at first I was really against this idea, but now I'm like, okay, why not? I don't like this breach of my integrity, and I want to seem like I'm as autonomous as possible, because it is kind of embarrassing to admit that you need a person that will help you cut vegetables, but sometimes you just have to try it out, So I said I would be willing to get more information about this. It's not a commitment. It's just like me talking with a social worker from the neurorehab who knows a little bit more about what kind of help home support person can give me. So yeah, it won't be like a commitment or even a guarantee that I get this kind of help, but I don't know, maybe it would be interesting to try it. I think that like that would trigger a lot of social anxiety in me, but I don't know, maybe sometime in the future that will be something I will try out. And then she said, because I was asking about my like, what do I do with my psychologist now, And she said, well, a lot of people with autism need help with like just having somebody to talk to, basically. So using a psychologist for that. But it's not like this person really knows about therapy that could help me. So I don't really know what I'm going to do with my psychologist now. So I'm letting it go for now. I think there will be quite a lot with just doing this introductory course. But then she said that in the future, she asked me, do you have existential anxiety. And I was like, yeah. You know, I think that INFPs have a lot of existential anxiety. I said, but yeah, and she was like, I asked her to elaborate, like, what is existential anxiety? And she said it's when you are worried about like the planet, the future, that kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, obviously. I said, like, you know, most people are worried about the state of the world right now, you know, with the climate crisis and Trump becoming president and all sorts of other things. There are a lot of things to be worried about, you know. So I don't think that I'm like special in that manner. But she said like this, that a lot of people with autism are very like regret a lot of the past and are very worried about the future, and that's what leads to a lot of anxiety. And so she said that later on I might be able to qualify for a course that is ACT. So she calls it NeuroACT course, which is acceptance commitment therapy. And it sounds really good. So I do want to do that at some point, but that is way into the future. But it would be like 5 to 8 people in a group, and it would kind of be like group therapy, but in a structured manner, rather than this introductory course, which is more like understanding autism and getting to know the community, I guess, while this other course is more of a deep dive into like mindfulness, being present in the present moment, you know, and getting help from this group therapy setting. So that was what I got as kind of accommodation recommendations, I guess. I am very tired after that. I took a sleeping medication so that I could like just shut down, because I was feeling like so drained after that. It was an hour and a half, which was very long. And, you know, recounting your life again and again. I do this on this channel all the time, but, you know, it's less pressure doing it here, but in front of a professional and having to come up with goals and such, it's a lot. And so we'll see how that goes. Maybe I can help, like I can talk about this once I get the link to the videos, because I think that that's the first thing that comes up is the videos that are from the state, I think, or the regional healthcare system. So first it will be the videos, and maybe I can get some insights there. Then the course at the end of the spring season. And then maybe I'll get a discussion with somebody about home support and that kind of accommodation. I don't know. I didn't get really deep into my work, because that is something I need to discuss with my boss. But I will need to, if I'm going to a course every Thursday afternoon for several weeks, I'll have to discuss this with my boss at some point. But I think I'll have to wait until I know for sure that I am part of the course. But my boss wants to know as early as possible, like if I need to work part-time or whatever. So yeah, this was a long video, but I think I needed to make this so that I can finally just like let this go and go about my week. I got quite stressed out because then I had to go back home and continue the documentation on the patients on my computer. And then I realized, like, while I was gone, when we got the blood samples from one of the patients, and it was looking really, really bad, and the nurse had to call my replacement, which made me feel kind of awful for leaving all that responsibility. I just threw it and went on running. But I got to do what I got to do sometimes. So I don't know what I'm thinking. I'm very happy about that there are accommodations for me. But all of this gives me a lot of worries. And also I realize that there are certain things that I won't be able to change and that will give me problems. And that it's not my fault. Even if these are problems for me, they're not my fault. But the thing is, most of society believes that my problems are my fault. And so that's why I got this kind of thinking, that I, these things that make me think that I'm awful and that make me depressed. So yeah, I hope that you guys have a great day. I'm going to take some rest. And I'm going to maybe see if I can get out into the snow before the sun starts to leave us, which will be soon, I guess. So yeah, have a great day, everybody. Bye.